Good evening. My name is Troy Allen. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Effingham County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the 2022 Effingham County Commission Candidates Forum, presented by the Chamber of Commerce and the Effingham Herald. We're glad you can join us for what we hope will be informative discussions of vital matters. I want to thank all participating candidates for making time to be here. We are grateful to the Effingham County Board of Education, Superintendent Dr. Yancey Ford, Dr. Torian White, and the staff here at South Effingham High School for their help in presenting these forums. These forums are designed to help voters better know the incumbents and challengers for the Effingham County Board of Commissioners, serving Districts 2, 3, and 5. Although District 3 challenger was not available to participate this evening, incumbent Commissioner Jamie DeLoach has agreed to answer questions posed by our moderator and our audience. Remember, Election Day is November 8th, with early voting starting next Monday, October 17th. Be sure to cast your ballot in a supported midterm election. Tonight's forums are being recorded and can be seen again on the Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, and we post it on the Chamber's YouTube channel. We encourage you to submit your questions to the moderator. Question cards were provided at the entrance. When your question is ready, hold it up and somebody will come by and pick it up. The moderator will review them for relevance, appropriateness, and constraints of time. Before we begin the forums, the Effingham County Commission, we had planned to have a forum for the state representative of District 161 race. But unfortunately, the challenger in the race was not available to participate this evening. Incumbent Representative Bill Hitchens is here and asked for any opportunity to speak and answer questions. So I'd like to introduce Representative Bill Hitchens and the moderator for this evening's forum, Mr. Mark Lastinger, editor of the Effingham Herald. Mark and Bill, yours. Thank you.
I'd also like to thank everybody for coming, and I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Please tell your friends that couldn't be here who might be undecided to watch this on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate people who want to make informed decisions, and that this is a good way. We're going to find out some good stuff tonight. Now we'll turn it over to District 161 Representative Bill Hitchens. He'll get to introduce himself, although he really does not need an introduction, but we'll give you a couple of minutes anyway.
Well, I really don't know what you want to know, but my name obviously is Bill Hitchens, and I've been the state representative for South Effingham, Pooler, Port Wentworth, part of Garden City, and part of Savannah for the last 10 years. I've got a long public history and career. I served in the United States Marine Corps and served 13 months in Vietnam. I joined up in buddy system with my friend Jack Kieffer, who ended up being killed in Vietnam on March 7th, 1967. When I got out, I went to college on the VA bill, went to Georgia Southern and graduated, went in as an officer in the U.S. Coast Guard, and I stayed in the reserves and retired with 30 years of service. In addition, I was a Georgia State Trooper. I came up through the ranks. I was a post commander in Savannah for about 15 years, moved on. I had about 5 different assignments across the state. I ended up being the commanding officer of the Georgia State Patrol and retired in 1997. At that time, Governor Zell Miller rehired me to work as a contract employee to be a consultant to the Governor's Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. I did that for about 5 years, and 9/11 happened. I had been an intelligence officer in the Coast Guard and had actually written the coastal defense plans for Georgia and South Carolina. The governor summoned me, interviewed me, and had a major general with the Air Force in there. And I became Georgia's first Homeland Security Director. I did that for 2 years. I was the executive director of the uh, G8 Public Safety Command. I think many of you remember the G8. I was in charge of security everywhere except on Sea Island itself, where the Secret Service and the FBI, where all the presidents and prime ministers stayed. After that was over, the governor called me in and asked me if I wanted to go home. And I thought he was telling me I was finished, but I had worked in the Georgia State Patrol for many years, and the Commissioner of Public Safety was retiring, and he told me that if I wanted a job, that it was mine. So I then served as the Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Georgia for an additional 7 years before I retired. I retired in January of 2012. About 2 months later, Ann Purcell decided that she was going to retire from the House of Representatives. When I saw it in the newspaper, Ann and I had been good friends for many years. I called her, and Ann's 3 years older than me, and her husband's 3 years older than she is. And I thought maybe somebody was sick. I was trying to be nosy without acting like it. And she said that nobody was sick, that they were just getting some age, and they wanted to do some things. Her husband's a physician. He had retired. They had some things they wanted to do before they got too old. So I asked her who I should vote for, and there were 3 people running against her, and she thought for a long time, and she said, "I'm gonna vote for you, Bill." I said, "I've been around it all my life. I've been in the legislature. I was assigned to Jimmy Carter when he was governor on his protective detail in 1971 and 72, and back again in 74. And I said, I've got a pretty good idea what goes on there, and I don't know that I want to be a part of it." And I told her no. About 3 hours later, the Speaker of the House called me and said, "Bill, Ann tells me you're interested in running for her position." I said, "Mr. Speaker, Ann has lied to you. I don't want any part of it." And he said, "Well, if you'll run, I'll endorse you. I'll come down and raise money for you, and we'll get you elected." And the next day, Governor Deal called me and essentially said the same thing. So, like I always do, I asked my wife. I took on a couple of jobs out of Effingham County through the years, and spent my last 10 years working in state government in Atlanta. And I said, "What do you think?" And she said, "If you want to do it, do it. But if you go to Atlanta again, I'm going to live up there with you. So I maintain my condo, and that's pretty much my history. I guess I've done all right in the state legislature. I'm on all the important committees now, and I've been chairman of Defense and Veterans Affairs. I've been chairman of Public Safety and Homeland Security, and I'm currently the chairman of Public Safety Appropriations. All the budget has to be initiated in the House of Representatives. Everything that has anything to do with the courts, state law enforcement, and many other criminal justice related departments and agencies come under that. So I really am in charge of about $5 billion of budget every year. And I've been on appropriations since the day I got there. I'm only the second person in modern history that was appointed appropriations in his freshman year. So that's pretty much it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our program. Thank you for tuning in.
I knew it'd be too long, but
I'm just kidding. It just shows you've got a wide breadth of experience. And speaking of that, I thought long and hard about the first question today. And in all honesty, it's kind of a fanciful question, but I think it will reveal what's important to you. If Speaker David Ralston came to you on the first day of the session in January and said, "I'm handing you the gavel. You run the show for the next 3 months," what would you try to get done?
well, the first thing I would do, and I've just talked to a couple of people right here, and I don't know that he's got much more power in this arena than I do, is get Georgia 21 6 lane. I've been working on that for about 5 years now. Myself, John Burns, and Jack Hill before he died, we've met with the Commissioner of DOT. He's a friend of mine. When I was Commissioner of Public Safety, he was Operations Director in DOT, and we had a lot of projects together. I don't know how many of you know it. He kind of low key, but the Deputy Commissioner of DOT lives in this county. He graduated from high school with my son. And I'm the chairman of the Transportation Subcommittee on the Ports and Local Government. And I haven't been able to get it done. We've done over $400 million worth of other projects in my district, but that one seems to be a sticking point. I've got promises and promises, but it is, I drive down there all the time. I'm glad when I used to drive to the Dean Forest Road every day before they even opened I-95. I never had any problem, and after 95 opened, it was easy. But when I came back from Atlanta after spending 10 years up there, I was just astounded at the volume, and I understand it. My district was the third fastest growing district in the state in the last census. Each district, 10 years prior, had 55,000 people in it. There's 180 representatives. They take the total population of the state divided by 180, and that's how many people you get. This time, because we gained over 1 million people in Georgia in the last 10 years, it went up to 60,000. When the census was done, I had 82,000 in my district. I lost most of Pooler, I lost Southbridge, I lost part of Garden City that I had, and I lost part of Effingham County over around Eden, Meldrum, and Old River Road. So every time I go out Blue Jay Road to get over to I-16 to go to Atlanta and come back, I see a new subdivision. And I drive down Old Augusta Road all the time when I'm going down to Savannah, and feels like there's a new warehouse every time I go down there. And I don't fault people. I know many people that some of them own that property, and they got a lot of money for it, and I don't know what you can do to stop it. We have zoning regulations, but we're talking about multinational companies that have millions of dollars. I got into it with a multinational company over the pipeline that was supposed to come through Effingham County, and I'd never seen people that spend so much money and fight so hard to get something done. And then they take you to court and you lose, they do it anyway. So.
Okay. Well, as a Effingham County resident, I can say, I say for all of them, that we appreciate your efforts on trying to get it 6 lane, because only by the grace of God and general good parental upbringing does Effingham County not lead the world in road trade incidents.
And I think that the Effingham Parkway is going to help, and you know, typically we don't get state money to do county roads. John Burns, Jack Hill, and I were able to get $43 million to get that going, and I showed my wife today where they started on over there, and she'll be able to turn off Blue Jay Road and go right straight into Benton Boulevard, and she's looking forward to that day. But I think it's going to take a lot of the West Effingham traffic off of Georgia 21 and Georgia 30 and all that intersection in I-95, which is just jammed up. That light at Georgia 30 is the real problem. It's not the diverging interchange, it's the light.
Okay. Well, I think I probably speak for everyone again that I appreciate the suspension of the fuel tax in the last few months. But do we have to worry at some point of that biting us a few months or a year from now?
It's already biting us, and I'll tell you why. It's all that fuel tax is what we use to build roads. And we've had it suspended now for a pretty good amount of time, and it's 27 cents a gallon for gasoline and 35 cents a gallon for diesel. You've got 11 million people in your state, and all the visitors are coming through buying fuel. That's a substantial amount of money, and I think the governor's done it. He's well-intended. He wants to, you know, inflationary times, the cost of fuel's gone up substantially. He's trying to look out for the citizens of the state, and I understand that. But we are going to have to deal with the after effects.
We've only been allotted 15 minutes for this segment, so we're getting close to the end. But I'd like to ask you one more question and then give your closing statement. But along the line with the gas tax, you know, we're fixing to be in the center of the electric vehicle universe here before too long. And since the need for fuel is going to be less, how is that gap with the electric vehicles going to be made up?
Well, you know, we passed laws several years ago that gave people kind of a subsidy if they bought electric vehicles. And then we turned around later and took it back. And the reason for that is, if you drive an electric vehicle, it weighs about as much as any other vehicle, and it damages the road just like any other vehicle. So the maintenance they're getting a free ride. So now they have to pay $200 a year to provide for the highway maintenance. But just so happens I was in Korea about 2 weeks ago, and I met with 2 of the cabinet ministers in the president's cabinet over there. I went over there to get an award. I was a military thing, but you know, the last bill that the president pushed forward that's supposed to reduce our inflation had a caveat in there that provides a penalty for out-of-country corporations. And I really caught it over there, and that if Congress doesn't change it, I'm not sure Honda is going to bring everybody that they said they would. I think they may cut back. They thought I was somebody in Congress and had a whole lot more wherewithal than I actually have, and wanted me to do whatever I could to to see if that could be changed. I've talked to Buddy Carter about it, and he was already aware, and they're gonna do what they can, but you think we're crowded now, you wait till we get 80 to 100 more people over there. And I don't know if all of you know exactly where it is. When you're on 280 and cross I-16, it's about a half mile on your left, just before you go down that steep hill. And I think a lot of local people are probably gonna get jobs, but there's gonna be people come in from other places, and you know, growth is progress, and in some people's eyes, but, you know, I moved here in 1969 from Chatham County to put my kids in school and to live out in the country, and we had 12,000 people in the county then. I believe in the last census, we've got about 70,000, so the growth has been significant, and, you know, there are two sides to it, and I'm not gonna go there.
All right, well, would you like to make a closing statement about why
Well,
you're the best candidate?
I just think I've done a pretty good job. You know, I like to feel like I'm fairly humble. You don't see me out all over the place, espousing, all the things that I've got done, but I have done a lot with regard to transportation, particularly. Public safety has been something that I've been involved in for most of my life, and I've worked with, I've had the opportunity there to pass several bills that help the public safety community. I can tell you, my son is the deputy commissioner of the Florida Department of Public Safety right now. No police agency can hire police officers anymore. They don't want the job. There's too much backlash from the public. You stand to lose everything you've got if you end up in court. Somebody accuse you of brutality because you have to use some force to take them to jail. I don't know what choice you have. If they won't go, you just can't say, well, if you don't want to go today, maybe we'll catch you later. But you can lose everything you have. And if you get charged with a criminal crime, for civil cases, the Attorney General of the state of Georgia represents you. But if you get charged with a crime like assault, you're on your own. You got to hire your own attorney, and you've got to do it yourself. And I've got a bill this year to try and deal with some of that. But if we don't support our law enforcement community, I don't know what we have. I saw this morning on TV where in Boston they have a crisis, and all the police officers are transferring over to the fire department. He said everybody loves firemen. They make about the same amount of money. They have a better schedule. They work 24 hours on and can sleep at night unless there's a fire. And then they're off for 2 days. And I think I've seen that happen in other places. And we're in pretty good times insofar as jobs are concerned. So those people who need jobs, look in the private sector. They always make more money. They don't have some of the security and the retirement benefits you have in public service, but it's tough to hire police officers now, and I don't see it getting any better anytime soon.
Representative Hitchens, we very much appreciate you coming to speak to us tonight, and we appreciate your service.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank all of you for coming.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back shortly. All right, we're going to move to the county commission segment of our forum tonight. We're going to start with District 2. Would District 2 candidates, incumbent Roger Burdette and Mr. Barry Thompson, come forward, please? Take a seat. All right, we've got lots of questions submitted from the public. I want to get to one or two of mine before we move to them. And what we're going to do is give both of you guys a chance to make an introductory statement. And what we'll do, Mr. Burdette, you can go first, and then we'll start with the first question with Mr. Thompson, and then we'll just rotate back and forth. And each candidate will get a chance to rebut the other fellow's answer. And Mr. Burdette, since you go first with the intro, you'll make the closing remarks last. So please introduce yourself, Mr. Burdette.
Good afternoon or good evening. I just want to thank everybody for being here today.
the people you look around and see right now are the people that really care about Effingham County. You know, we really, really appreciate it. We see a lot of you in the county meetings all the time. That's appreciated as well. But I'm a family man of 4 children and 4 grandchildren. They're making me old as well. But and we have 2 children that are still school age here in South Effingham as well. So one of the great things about being a District 2 commissioner is we live in our district. We experience everything everybody else does every day, and as we should. So we know what's going on and know what's going on in our district. I'm a Georgia native. I've lived in Effingham for 20 years. Proud to have served my country as well, the U.S. Navy. And I don't have the resume Mr. Hitchens had. It's hard to follow that for sure. But I graduated from Valdosta State University and later earned my master's at Mercer University. And I've been an entrepreneur for over 22 years now. And I've started several small businesses over the years, and a lot of it has been job creation right here in Effingham County. And proud to say that. I really believe in job creation and building up a place for our kids to have a place to go to work. And extremely proud to be able to serve here in Effingham County the last 4.5 years. I was born in a small, tiny little town called Nashville, Georgia, and looking at the census today, there's 4,000 people in the city of Nashville, and 4,000 people when I graduated high school. They've had no growth, and some of you may have heard me tell this story before. It's when we were in high school, the only thing we could really look forward to is just leaving. We had no hope. We had no jobs. We had nowhere to go. You know, the only thing we could look forward to would be going to school maybe somewhere or getting a job in another city. We had nothing. And that was really disheartening. There was great people there, great friends growing up, but everybody just looked forward to leaving. And that's why I think Effingham is so unique in that way. We've got a really great chance here to create something awesome, and we already have started that. But it's going to take balance. It's going to take some sacrifice and some strong decisions. Some agree with, some not. But a balance of growth and prosperity for us and our children. So when our children and our grandchildren grow up, they don't have to move off and go somewhere else to have a job or to have skilled labor chance or to go to school, and they can come back actually. And that's what I see as a great vision in Effingham along those lines, and just to have that balance, prosperity for us all. That balance, every time we make a decision, it's traffic, it's industry, it's property rights, it's tough. You ask my lovely wife, she's here tonight, that I lose sleep a lot because it's real people that this affects every day. And some are angry and some are upset. And I take it to heart. It's very, very difficult because I'm here to serve. I'm not the politician type running out. And you know, if I'm in a party, I'm in the back eating shrimp. She's shaking everybody's hand. She's the social butterfly. But I do love to serve. I love to serve Effingham County, and I hope I continue to do so. Thank you.
Mr. Thompson.
Oh, yes. Hello and good evening to everyone and the viewers watching at home. I've been speaking with my members of my community, and it has inspired me to be here. And I want to thank everyone for their time and their support and meeting everyone and hearing their stories and actually coming to the door and not thinking I'm selling solar panels. I met with a lot of people along the way, which has brought me even closer to my community. But for the people that do not know me, my name is Barry Thompson, and I will be the write-in candidate for County Commissioner in District 2. We are all here together for a reason, because the decisions made over the past few years have not been in the community's best interest. These decisions mostly have been dedicated towards economic development, and we need infrastructures, schools, green space, lower taxes, and a whole list of concerns that I share with the community. We need to have a structured plan and guidelines that we need to adhere to before any major development goes forward. I share these same issues with all of Effingham that should not be pushed aside. Now is the time for a change, and with your vote, we will do just that. November the 8th, let me be your voice and new vision for the future and decide to vote for Barry Thompson, write it in for the win.
All right, we'll start with the first question for you, Mr. Thompson, and it is this. First, I want to read something to you. This is an Effingham Chamber-sponsored event, so I thought it would be appropriate to start with a chamber question. Here we go. The Effingham Chamber of Commerce defines smart growth as growth that is strategically planned and designed in a manner that considers land uses, access to and preservation of its natural beauty, its close-knit hometown identity, and transportation/infrastructure needs. The engagement and collaborative efforts of key stakeholders will result in development that brings value to our region's economic, social, and environmental future. Now, is that definition of smart growth, is it in line with yours, or would you tweak it a little bit?
I think it could be tweaked. I think some of those lines need to be structured as far as what they bring in, and to worry about the aesthetics of this county. And when you think about that stuff, you can be selective of who comes in here and what's left, and the plan and what they present.
Okay, Mr. Burdette.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I like that vision. It's a good vision, and it's already one we have in place. You know, our commissioner, our board is like none other. And we don't always agree. We're not supposed to always agree. We have a fantastic board that works hard behind the scenes where people don't see it. But yes, I would see that vision as coming to fruition. We're working diligently with a new master plan, new zoning that includes the green space that we're talking about. It includes aesthetics, the frontage, thinking years and years down the line, not just in the next 6 months. So we already have that. We already have that in place. And when you do that, you have to consider a whole ball of wax. It's not just one section or another. Green space goes along with water and sewer. Do we have that? Can we put that together? And it goes along with zoning. It goes along with everything else, and land use maps. It is a huge undertaking. It takes a lot of work, and we're doing that. I think if we could fault the county for anything, it'd be communication. But we're getting that done too. Soon we're gonna be rolling out a new PR person. They're gonna be fantastic, and their sole job is gonna be getting information out to our constituents and to our public. We're gonna see some change in that area, but we're doing these things already.
Okay. Mr. Thompson, would you like to just go ahead, or would you like to rebut any of the answer there?
Well, I would like to see that more of like I said, of the guidelines being adhered to, and when you say something to that effect, you know, we need to be sure that that's in the community's best interest. I think with my own experience of some of these warehouses coming in, that there needs to be, those guidelines need to be adhered to for the community and not just by the developer. And I think that's a lot of people's concern since I've been door to door. I don't know how many homes now for the past couple months, is that it's one of the main concerns, that they're not getting the feedback, and they don't really know and have the communication with the current commission.
Okay, Mr. Burdette, this question goes to you first.
Yes, sir.
A lot of residents are worried about what they see as drastic changes that have happened in the last year or so in the county. What is the plan, or what should be the plan to maintain that rural type feeling that drew so many people here to start with, or is that even possible anymore?
It's possible to a degree. You know, our density is going to increase. We've even put measures in to deter some density till we catch up with some of our infrastructure plans. So all those plans are in place. But like I said, we are working hard to handle those types of things and everything else as well.
Okay. Mr. Thompson?
I would like to work with everyone, you know, at my fingertips to make sure we have a very concise master plan. I don't think it needs to be so quick to bring in the development before the infrastructure is not here. It needs to be well thought out, something that, you know, if it needs to be tabled, then it needs to be tabled till we can figure out really in the direction that we need to be going in.
Okay. Mr. Burdette, would you like to rebut or add anything to that?
Yeah, I think we're going pretty slow with it, actually. We're about a year and a half into it, I think, so far, and we've already had public workshops and invited the public, but a lot of people just don't show up. But we are doing those things. We're inviting the public. We're getting feedback from everybody we can. It's not just developers. Like I say, that's a balance, and we need to hear from everybody. There's people with property rights we have to uphold. We can't put Effingham County in a lawsuit every time we don't want something. We have to consider the whole ball of wax, like I keep mentioning, but we have to follow our own ordinances. We have ordinances in place that if we don't follow those, we're in trouble. And sometimes our hands are tied, sometimes there's changes we need to make, and we make those changes. We've made zoning changes to keep from pop-up yards with container companies and trucking companies, and done a lot of great things already, but it's gonna keep taking more and more work, and we're willing to do that work.
Okay, we'll move to question number 3. Mr. Thompson, this will be yours. Representative Hitchens addressed the traffic situation and said, you know, the state has really not much of a role in county roads. What would you do to ease the traffic situation in Effingham County?
Well, we need to find any kind of solution, as you know, whether it be the simplest of solutions that wouldn't cost us as much money as some things considered, but that comes back to a plan and working with people. You know, we need to find those answers and go seek those answers out and beat on the doors until we're heard. And that's what it takes. So they're not willing to pay for county roads. We need to try to find the funding, some kind of manner that will work for everybody and work for the best solution for the community.
Okay, Mr. Burdette.
I'd have to add to that, it takes expert engineering, is what it really takes. We have to engineer that ahead of time, have to get infrastructure ahead as much as possible. But there's a limitation to that. If you put too much infrastructure out there before you do the proper studies and give it time to kind of see what traffic patterns is, that can drastically fall backwards on you, and you'll be spending millions of dollars to redo it. We've seen that happen already with Blue Jay. We've seen that happen in Chatham County where 30 meets 21. They're redoing that whole intersection right there, spending millions of dollars on that because they did the studies, they built the roads, and then they didn't anticipate all the traffic coming through there. So they're having to redo that. So it's not once and done. It's an ongoing accomplishment for infrastructure. We've got great things coming like Effingham Parkway and roundabouts so people can get through and not stuck every day. And a lot of our traffic problem is Chatham County. We can't get through. 21's backed up almost every day. And it's not a result of anything we're doing in Effingham. It's backed up at the new school on 21. People come in 21, I'm in it every day. And if it's backed up, they'll divert on Goshen and go down Hodgeville and go in that way. So Effingham Parkway is going to really be a big relief for that. It won't be a fix-all, but it definitely would be a big relief. And I hope Representative Hitchens is correct. We get that 6-lane going on 21. That'd be phenomenal.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, would you like to add anything to that or move on to the next question?
But I think some of that, you know, that sounds very good. But you know, if you decide to put warehouses all the way down Effingham Parkway, you know, you don't want to dump more traffic in when you're trying to make a solution. Like I said, being selective of where we put these warehouses would be the key in keeping them in a certain area so you wouldn't have to fight some of the traffic in that manner.
Can I answer to that?
Sure.
Yeah, the warehousing, we don't just dump warehousing anywhere. It's all planned out. That's what we're working on with a new land use map. Our master plan is going to address a lot of that, and all of it won't be on the parkway. But a lot of it will be because we want to get rid of some of that truck traffic that way. Warehousing is what I call proximity growth. We are going to get that growth no matter what. If we deny that growth, it will go to the next closest county, which is Screven. You can do that, then you're going to put all the warehouses in Screven County, and we're going to get all the traffic with zero revenue. That is not the option to get rid of all the warehousing in industry. We've got to accommodate it the best we can, put it in the right places. I think we already have them in the right places. You're going to be seeing that soon. But if you deter that, we're going to have all that truck traffic right through Effingham County, with zero revenue. And what happens with that? It goes back to the taxpayers. We already reduced the tax rates, I think every year since I've been in office, if I'm not mistaken. Property values are still going up. We can't control that. Everybody's houses are worth more. We've reduced the taxes every single year so we can keep that more in line. You'll look at your rates on your taxes. They go down, and they went down again this year.
All right, we'll move on to question number 4. Mr. Burdette, this is yours first. As these warehouse developments and residential developments continue to come in at an ever-growing rate, what is the county commission doing to make sure these developers are investing in the community, such as green space, walking paths, stormwater mitigation, et cetera?
Yes, sir. We just had a workshop on this a couple of weeks ago with Springfield. Springfield's doing some fantastic things as far as new growth, how it looks, the aesthetics of it, and we're going to model some of that. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel every time we do something. We're looking at people already doing things. They're modeling things after Hilton Head and that area, which is just a beautiful area. They've done a great job, and we're doing some of those same things right here in Effingham County in different areas, so we can address some of that, and it still has some of that hometown feel, but still allow people to come into the county that deserves to put their kids in school just like mine. I think it's a great plan.
Okay, Mr. Thompson?
What was the question again?
As the warehousing and residential developments continue to grow, what would you recommend the county commission do as far as forcing developers to commit to green space, stormwater mitigation,
Well,
those kinds of things?
way of impact fees and to make sure they pay their fair share towards all those, everything that they impact, and to make sure that we are getting the right compensation to put back into the infrastructure in schools and green space, and make sure they adhere to the plan as far as the way they make it out to be, and not just make it up as they go.
Okay, so Mr. Burdette, would you like to add anything?
Yes, sir, and we are doing those impact fees as well as part of the new initiative that we're going to have. And they should pay for that. That's part of it, but it should not be on the taxpayer. But there will be an impact fee in a lot of different areas. Some initiatives to keep more trees, to have more space, more buffers. We're trying really hard to get that done and do it right. We're not running down the road blindly, just trying to do it in such a hurry where it's not done right. Oftentimes, this board will back up and slow down a little bit and really take a good look at things and make sure we're doing it right. Because it's important. You guys are important to us.
Okay, we're going to get to a couple of audience questions after this one last question that I had. Mr. Thompson, I talked to you weeks ago when you announced your candidacy in the green space, and,
Yes, sir.
and the environment's very important to you.
Sure.
What would you say about, would you be interested in the county possibly buying environmentally sensitive areas to try to provide more green space, maybe create parks, this kind of stuff?
Sure, of course. I think that's something that could be looked at, and certain parts of the county saved, and that way you wouldn't have to worry about certain areas being deforested and the wildlife being just run off and not having that anymore. Because I think that's the real tone of the county, is that people's tranquility and serenity and their quality of life is going to be jeopardized by all these warehouses. And that's something that definitely needs to be looked at. And even if you have a warehouse going in, that needs to be probably out of sight and out of mind. Clear cutting, stuff like that. And sure, we need to have more structure and adhere to the guidelines to make sure those variants and buffers stay in place for a reason.
Okay, Mr. Burdette?
Yes, sir. I would totally be for that, but we have to be careful how far we go down that line, because every time we purchase things like that, that could affect taxpayers. I haven't met anybody yet that wants to raise their own taxes, but we can set aside some money and some funding that we get to purchase some. In fact, I've been talking with my District 2 representative in the rec board, just got appointed a couple of weeks ago, and he's going to be looking for things in District 2, like McCall Park that we've got. We've got in District 2 the best small park in the county. It's awesome. one of the things I'll strike up is one of my favorite things that we've accomplished since I've been on the board. And, it's just a beautiful park. We want more of that. I see people using it every day. It's just phenomenal what we've done. I asked them to use every square inch of that park, and they did. Did a fantastic job.
Okay, a chance to rebut, Mr. Thompson.
I think stuff like that would be, really something for the community to make sure you're going out there, and that's where their tax dollars really need to be, and really get the feel of what they think. And I think that's not always the case sometimes. I think, to be more communication with the whole district as a whole to see if that's the right move in some of the decisions made.
Mr. Burdette, this is an audience question. The commissioners have allotted tens of millions of dollars towards recreation. That's great. Now what are we going to do about enhancing our library facilities?
That's one I really can't answer right offhand. I'm not going to pretend I know all about the library system, but I really don't. I know a lot of things are going digital. We're looking at that, and we've been in discussion with them, but currently I don't have any information on that, but I'd be glad to get that.
Okay, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, that's something new to me. If it's something that needs to be sought after, I would seek out the information and bring it back to the community and see what we can do about that and see how they feel about it.
Just for the record, the person who asked this question says the folks at the library are doing a wonderful job. So pat yourself on the back. And they also say the facilities need to be modernized. All right. Anybody got anything else they want to add to that? All right, we'll move on to another one. Mr. Thompson? Sure. For all candidates, I am a regular member of the commissioners' meetings, a regular viewer of the commissioners' meetings. A lot of discussion about zoning happens. What is the end game of all the discussion?
Well, I think you would ease a lot of the community's mind if you were making sure that you were adhering to all the ordinances in place, and those are in place for a reason. And I don't really think that it should be swayed so easily in the developer's favor. I know with my personal experience, that's what happened with us. So I think it should be tabled again if it needs to be, to get out there and really see what the community is talking about, to make sure that is the right decision that needs to be done. And I think it's workable, especially with the company. They should be more than willing to go back to the company and, to see what more the developer can do for us, because we can be selective now. We can pull these companies in and really precisely get who we want in here, because it is growing so fast.
Mr. Burdette?
I think my opponent hit the nail on the head with the zoning thing, because we do need to follow our ordinances when we can. But sometimes with all the growth and everything that's changed in Effingham County in the last 5 years, things need to be changed, and we have to take a hard look at that. And some of the things that come before us to make a decision on are agonizing, and they're not fun. And I've had to deal with some of those. And the one he's talking about is probably the one behind Jamestown, I guess.
That's correct.
That was a very, very difficult decision. I was not able to vote on that because I had some direct knowledge of that. But I was able to speak as a constituent to that, and I'll tell you what I said. But if we would have kept a buffer of 300 foot there, you would have heard every noise, every crackle, everything through the woods that was going on around that warehouse. The person building the warehouse, by the way, is Bill Hitchens, and they built a fantastic. If you ride through there, you'd feel more confident with what's going to go on back there. So the board saw fit to make the largest berm in the history of Effingham County between Jamestown and that warehouse. It is the biggest thing we've done to date. It's huge. We also had knowledge of those wetlands behind there. And those weren't wetlands that were proposed. Those wetlands were already delineated. So we knew the footprint of this berm would have to be huge. So although we went from 300 to 150, it had to extend out another 50 to 100 feet. They almost got the entire buffer in addition to 25-foot berm. It's going to be a mountain. We did the best we possibly could to protect that, because eventually you're going to see industry in housing. Eventually you're going to see commercial in housing. How do you do that? How do you do it right? Trying hard to do that right. I thought we did a great job with that. It's the biggest one in the history of Effingham County, and a lot of people are upset about that. But the board really done their best to protect those people in the best scenario. It could have been 1,500 homes letting out traffic right there on Goshen every day, or on Hodgeville. 1,500 cars, and that equals 3,000 cars a day on traffic. So it's never a one-size-fits-all. It's what's going on in this area. How much traffic is already here? What are the property rights? Can we deny? Can we not deny? You have to think of all that balance every single time. It's never easy, but we do our best every time.
Okay. Would you like to add something to that, or move on?
Well, of course I would disagree with that, because, they say it's the best thing, but a lot of times I don't really think that's conveyed with the community. With the berm, without the berm, that's not really enough sometimes when you need to make the buffer. It's 300 foot. That should have been done, and then made them make a berm within that 300 foot. And that's that. To me, it would have been, a lot more pleasing to the community to ensure, that you have their best interest, and ease their mind of some of those issues, and that that you're working towards that. And if they needed to table it again, that's what they should have done.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
My opponent mentioned following the ordinances. You can't make somebody do something that's not in our ordinance. We're not going to break the law to enforce a 300-foot buffer and make them do a berm. We'd be going against what he just said he did not want to do, and that's enforce our own ordinances. We have laws we've got to work with. We got to do that every day and consider those. And if they're not good, we work hard to change them. And we've changed a lot. We'll continue to do so. But the ordinance that we have to work with on that day and that decision, and a lot goes into that. It's not an overnight decision. We have to uphold those. We have to protect those people. We also have to protect our county as a whole. We don't want to be in a lawsuit every other day, spending millions of taxpayers' dollars when we don't need to do that.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, this is start with you. Effingham County is considering new wastewater treatment solutions to meet current and future needs. The industrial mega site in Bryan County is going to have a massive water treatment facility with tie-in capacity for the surrounding area. Do you think Effingham County should consider that as an option for its future? How would you vote on on a vote like that?
Well, I'm not too sure about the specifics as far as all that goes. It'd be something I would have to look at and definitely communicate with those county and with the community to see our best option.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you speaking as far as treatment of water or water source?
You take it and run with it, whatever you think our needs are.
We're always looking at ways for a better water source, because we only have one. So we're looking at that behind the scenes all the time. Like I say, we need to have more things up front for all the work we're doing. I'm a firm believer, if they knew the work we're doing, my opponent wouldn't be sitting here right now. He'd be on the phone trying to work with me and help me, because we are working hard. But yes, water treatment and a source of water would be something we would definitely consider. Not that we want to be bad neighbors to Chatham County. I think Chatham County is great. We're trying to increase that relationship. We'll work hard on that. But I would love to have something else besides that. If Bryan County would be a possible answer to that, I'd be all for it.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Thompson?
No, I don't believe so.
How are we doing on time, Andy? Okay. All right. We'll ask one more question, and then we'll go to the closing comments. The Effingham County Industrial Development Authority, it can negotiate tax incentives to lower industrial growth. They can also in the negotiations, be asked to provide some benefits. Now, they are an independent body, but does the county, do you think the county and the IDA have a sense of teamwork in how do you make sure that the county's interest or the taxpayers' interests are taken care of, so the farm's not given away? And what goes on to make sure that when some of these deals end, that they resume paying taxes or start paying taxes? So I think, Mr. Burdette, I think it's your turn.
Currently, for the IDA, each district has a representative. In my district is Eric, and we do meet and we do discuss things. In our last meeting, actually, we did discuss more for small businesses. We don't have a lot going on for small businesses, and I'm a small business person, and it's hard. It's difficult. Hard to be an entrepreneur and not take a salary for a year and try to make it and see if it's tough. And it seems like all the benefits go to the big companies. And I'd like to see us do something for the small businesses. In addition to that, I'd also like to see the IDA take an arm and take an interest. And we're in talks about this right now for commercial interest. Love to have some more restaurants in Rankin and some of our municipalities and some place to go where we don't have to go to Pooler for everything. So I want to focus some of that industrial growth into commercial growth, so we get some balance with that. We may need incentives for that. It'd be something I'd perfectly be willing to discuss and expand on something, some incentives for small business, some incentives for commercial. We have talked with IDA and talked with our representatives. To my knowledge, we don't do any incentives for warehousing anymore. That's it. That's what I consider proximity growth. It's coming anyway. No incentives, period. We did some at Georgia International Trade Center because we were starving for industry at that time. But since that's taken off, there's no point in it. To my knowledge, they don't do any of it anymore. So if you've got a warehouse, you want to come into Effingham County, you're paying taxes right away. Now, if you're skilled labor, you're going to make some great jobs for our children. We'll talk incentives. But right now, no warehousing incentives at all.
Well, I would think along, the same kind of lines that, if they're coming in, they need to pay their fair share. And there's no doubt about that.
Okay. All right. Well, then I've got a lot of questions myself, and I've got 4 or 5 here from the audience. Maybe we can get to them with the next group. But please give your closing comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Thompson.
I want to work closely with the community, and especially with the warehousing and I mentioned the variances and the ordinances. I want to make sure that, all those are in everybody's best interest as far as those goes, and not make snap decisions on some of those. I would like to see a plan going forward with the infrastructure, and make sure the community has a clear understanding of where we're headed with that, and as soon as possible. And the growth is coming. We all know that, but we can do a great job as far as making sure we have a plan and everybody knows aware of that plan. So that's where I'm at with that. And I think me being in there and working together with everyone that I possibly can, with the engineers or the best people in Effingham, I could bring that vision to Effingham with keeping the rural Southern charm type atmosphere.
Okay.
Yeah, in closing, I just like to list some of the things we've done since I've been in office, and it's been just an honor to be there and a blessing. Been instrumental in changing from an administrator form of government to a county manager style of government. And what that means basically is when we had an administrator, their decisions could be overridden very easily. They were depending on different commissioners. There was no empowerment for that position. So it made it very difficult for an administrator to do their job and have department heads report to them and really have a chain of command of any kind. Since we went to a county manager position and that style of government, it's been wonderful. Things have flowed. We've gotten things done and an incredible amount of volume things done because of the growth we've had and everything. I don't think we'd be able to handle that under an administrator type of government. McCall Park, of course, super proud of that. I just love driving by that. The high density moratorium, A lot of people are not a big favor of that, but right now we've got that going on. I'll introduce that back in February. A lot of complaints on traffic, but this board rallied around me and we got some stuff done. So we put this on pause so we can figure some of it out. There again, traffic patterns change all the time. We've got to keep our ear to the ground for those things so we don't make a mistake, spend unwanted dollars in the wrong places. I use my business knowledge. I mentioned some of these earlier to stop pop-up truck yards and container yards. We redefined those laws. You know, it used to be in B3, you could have a truck yard. And the intention of that originally was, before we started having growth, was, okay, if you got a couple of trucks, you could park them in your yard and be okay. You'd be out in the middle of nowhere and nobody really cared. Well, now they saw that and they started trying to capitalize on that in ways that we really didn't want to see in our county. So we made changes. Various road projects, we got tons of stuff with T-Splosh. I want to thank the constituents for voting that in. We've been able to do some amazing things with T-Splosh, including the Parkway. We'd had a big delta of money if we didn't have that. One of the things I'm proud to say that we increased the safety around South Effingham Elementary School. Never had turning lanes there for whatever reason. Now we've got them. Now my wife and everybody else that wants to take a kid to school can actually get through there now. And the school is safer. That was a big thing, the safety for those kids. Scuffletown, we ended up we're doing a full repave on that one. That was an unsafe road. Lobbying for a complete overhaul for our zoning codes and our land use maps. That way we can plan out. We're gonna put warehousing here. Let's limit it. Where's it gonna be? That way if somebody wants to come in, they've got to be in this area. Or maybe we need to use some of our county-owned property and they've got to go there first before we even think about allowing it anymore. We're thinking way ahead on this stuff. Communication, my big pitfall. I'll be the first to admit it. We should be better. If I'm reelected and you choose me to serve, I will serve and I'll have at least one town hall meeting a year, and we're going to get this PR person. I'm going to work directly with them. We're going to have some fun with it. We're going to do YouTube videos. We're going to make our website better. We're going to do social media. It's going to be great, and people are going to know what's going on. And that's what we need more than anything. We've been doing the work. Nobody knows about it, but we're going to make that change. Done a ton of work. We've got a long way to go, and I have a passion for doing what is right. Every time. Excuse me. And I got the ability and the skill set to do it, but it does take balance and hard work and to put it bluntly, just caring, you know. But it's been an honor to serve my country and an honor to serve Effingham County. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, we appreciate your appearance here tonight very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, here in just a minute, we'll have District 3 Commissioner Jamie DeLoach up here. We'll take a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, getting ready to start back up. 1 minute warning. Oh. All right, we're getting ready to resume. Now we move to the District 3 County Commission seat. And I present to you incumbent Jamie DeLoach. And before he starts introducing himself, I did want to say his opponent, Richard DM Garvin, could not be with us tonight. So, Mr. DeLoach.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for everybody coming out tonight. Just, I guess, a brief bio. Graduated from Georgia Southern. I guess before that, graduated from Effingham County High School. Graduated from Georgia Southern in 2003. 2010, I got a master's degree from Georgia Southern in business management. Most of my career, I've been a banker. I'm currently a commercial banker or commercial lender at Ameris Bank in Rincon. I am been married for 10 years. My wife is a school teacher at Effingham County High School. I have 3 kids, 2 sons and 1 daughter. The daughter is the youngest and she rules the roost. So I learn a lot from her every day. I guess kind of diving into things here. Yeah, I had a lot of things written down that I wanted to go over. And just some of the things that we're doing right now, and I know the previous candidate talked about this, but we are actually spending a good bit of money on some master plans. Some of the master plans include transportation, water and sewer. That's normally not the fun things to talk about, but it's very important to a growing community. Also, our recreation, Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I've sat in some of the stakeholder meetings. I know we've had 2 so far, maybe 3, but one thing that's been very interesting is, everybody's interest is not a ball field. We have a lot of constituents out there that are really wanting, as previously stated, more green space, walking trails. That's really one of the top topics that kept coming up. So that's been eye-opening. I'd like to thank everyone for T-Splost. A lot of times at our meetings, we hear a lot of complaints. And a lot of times the commissioners, we actually agree with those complaints. But a lot of times it comes down to a funding issue. We try to do what we can within the money that we have. So we don't want to raise taxes. We try to do what we can with the revenue that we have from property tax. And T-Splost has provided us with a good addition to some funding to get these roads done. So pretty much most all the roads that you see here that's getting done, there's more that's going to get done, is primarily being funded by T-Splost. And I just ask everyone that if your road has been resurfaced, the next time around on T-Splost, think about those that need their road resurfaced also. I think our commission has done a good job with public safety. A couple years ago, our fire ISO rating went down from a 4 now to a 3, which means we are a commercial fire department. So that helps everyone out with your homeowner's insurance. We've made quite a few investments with EMS, different with brand new ambulances and stretchers. Investments with the sheriff's office, actually looking at a training facility for the sheriff's office. As previous person said, one thing that I am glad we're doing is we created the position for public information officer to start helping get some of these, a lot of this information out. Because a lot of times at our meetings, we do tell the information, but folks are so irritated by the time they get to us. I don't think they hear anything that we say. And, you know, I understand, you know, sometimes people are upset. They have the right to be upset, but I think we need to do a better job of maybe when things cool down, we continue to get that message out there and educate everyone. I had a article come out, some of you may have read it yesterday, and I spoke about our bond rating, which that may not, you know, mean a whole lot to a lot of folks, but I think it speaks volumes to our financial soundness. I think the fiscal responsibility of our current board. I think it speaks volumes on our growing tax digest as well. Two more, we are currently now at a AA2, and what that means is 2 more upgrades and we will be AAA rated. And when that becomes important is when it's when we receive T-SPLOST, we get that voted in or SPLOST, and we go out and bond out, so we don't wait to get the money in over 5 years. We go ahead and bond it out up front, so we can go ahead and deliver the projects that we promised the community. We get a much better interest rate. So it's a big deal. Has potential to save the taxpayers, you know, even more money. So one of the things that contributes to the bond upgrade, as I previously mentioned on the tax digest, is we're having really good growth there. Every dollar that we take in on property tax, we spend $1.20 on residential services. So we are in the red with the services that we have to provide. Now, I'll just take the bull by the horns here and go ahead and bring up the word warehouse, because I know a lot of people don't like that word. But on Old Augusta, every one of those warehouses you see, they are going to be taxed 100%. There's no pilot there at all. In Old Augusta, that has always been labeled a truck route. We've had the right of way for that. We have known that that is going to be a industrial corridor, and it's just now the plan's coming together. So we speak about we need to have the infrastructure, we need to have things in place for with the warehouses, but that's going to generate a lot of tax revenue in the upcoming years once those are fully completed. Now, I'm not saying that we need a warehouse on every available acre, and that's by any means not what I'm saying, but that revenue will help us out going forward in the future. I guess that's it for opening. I'll
All
stop
right.
there.
Well, since your challenger's not here, this is almost going to be like just having a conversation among friends. But you're probably very familiar with the chamber definition of smart growth.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, does that jive with yours, or would you change it a little bit?
No, I definitely agree with that. I think certain things need to be in place. But one thing I will say, and people, well, probably a lot of people may disagree with me on this, but I don't think there's any city, I don't think there's any county in America that can ever say that we were 100% ready for our growth that we had. I mean, I think there's going to be growing pains, and I know we're going through that now, but I do think we have projects in place that haven't started. I know in District 2, I know there are roundabouts planned on Hodgeville. I know there's a 3rd lane planned to come on Goshen Road. Those projects will be starting, you know, within the next 12 months, maybe sooner on some, but I do think that we are addressing those issues, and I think we're doing what we can to try to help get the infrastructure there.
Okay, except in rare instances like this, do I ever write out a bunch of questions in advance? I usually just have a conversation and then just go with the flow. So as I was thinking about talking to you, you know, of all the people on the commission, you have your position is a little unique because a lot of the people who live in your district or your district geographically is not affected so much by some of the things we're talking about. But obviously you still have to look at the big picture. So in your unique position, could you, you know, I'm sure you're fighting to get Ash Roads in District 3 paved or repaved, but then also you have to deal with these same issues. So could you talk about that process and how you evaluate all these things?
As far as evaluating the issues outside of my district?
Yeah,
Which one?
yes, you know,
Okay.
is one more important than the other, or are you always looking at the big picture? Just how do you approach things?
Yeah. Well, I will say I definitely feel the effects of South Effingham whenever I have to drive to my downtown office on Drayton Street and be at a meeting by 8 o'clock in the morning. Because if I don't leave my house by 6 o'clock, I might not be there on time, especially if there's a wreck on 21. And I know a lot of folks in my district, they actually go down Old Augusta, cutting over to 21 to go to work, and I know they're going down that route, you know, twice a day. So a lot of my folks, I think they do feel some of the burden on traffic issues, and that's still something that I've got to be mindful for. I think that's a good question because sometimes I get asked, you know, well, why did you support something in, you know, District 2, or why did you support that in District 5? And the way I look at it is you've got to take a common sense approach to it. If something needs to be done, I mean, overall, we need to help taxpayers. I do have to keep in mind that I have to get things done for District 3, but I think sometimes when we help other districts out, you know, we still help our own district out. And I just think you have to have a broad perspective like that when you're thinking about that.
I don't think anybody's ever told me I asked them a good question before. I appreciate that. Well, talking about traffic, yeah, basically it's a traffic question, or it's more specifically a T-Splosh question. You know, you mentioned how important it is. Mr. Burdette mentioned how important it is. And if I remember right, it was supposed to generate $45 million over 5 years, I think it was. Could you tell us, you know, how is that coming, or way ahead? Maybe we get more money. What's up with that?
Well, glad you asked that too. You're on a roll, man. So currently right now, under, I guess, the previous T-Splosh law is you had two things on the referendum. You had a time frame, which ours is 5 years, or you have a dollar amount. So whichever one happens first, that ends that cycle for T-Splosh. So then you would have to vote for another one. Well, in this past session, and I really appreciate our state legislatures doing this, they passed new legislation to where if you reach your dollar amount, you can continue to collect. So if you do 5 years, say your number's 50 million, year 3, you get to 50, you can continue collecting that penny. Well, currently, we are under the old T-Splosh rules. And I guess this is a good problem to have, but as of right now, we are ahead of schedule by a good bit. I think we're scheduled to possibly collect our allotted money that was on the referendum by maybe May of 2024. So that becomes another decision and discussion with our cities and other entities, you know, when do we bring this back up? Because if we don't bring it back up at a certain time, there's a possibility we're going to lose that penny. And we lose that penny, that could be a lot of money going out the door that we could be spending on other road projects that need to be done. So if we pass it on the next one, then we're good. If we do it for 5 years on a referendum, it doesn't matter how much we collect, but as of right now, we're kind of running out of time, which I see as a good problem.
Okay, well, since you're flying solo, we've only been allotted 15 minutes, so we're kind of getting short on time here. So, you know, I guess we'll let you do your closing remarks. And if there's any of these issues that you want to address, please do that. You know, the green space, the warehousing, anything else you can think of, please include it.
Okay. When I first thought about becoming a commissioner, I never really thought about zoning. And it was actually my second zoning meeting that I had, I guess as I would call myself a rookie. And it was one of the toughest moments of my life, because on one side of the fence was my parents' best friends, and on the other side of the fence was some other good friends of my parents. So I was in a no-win situation. And I quickly learned after that, it was a really good learning experience, but zoning's tough. And a lot of the zoning rules that we have now, I mean, they've been there for 40 years. And as the previous conversation came up, we're starting to face things that are just not in our zoning. I mean, for instance, something new that we're dealing with is the single-family rental units. This is when the investors come in, they'll buy out a whole subdivision, and the entire development is rental. So we've heard a lot of pros on that. The one con that I personally think about is, you know, it worries me that it really drives up the value of new home prices. That's a worry for me, because I just worry about the affordability of homes, you know, going through the roof. And, you know, even in today's market, I think a starter home now is, I mean, it's above 200,000. I never thought I would see that. And that's one of the reasons why we do have the moratorium in place, is we're trying to get our hands around, you know, is that a good thing or not? And just me personally, another thing I struggle with when thinking about these decisions and zoning ordinances that we need to change is, you know, at what point is, you know, the government reaching out too far? You know, the American dream is I can make an investment and I can make money. I mean, if a person or corporation has the dollars to buy property, make an investment and turn money, then, hey, that's the American way. But at some point, I think we do have to step in, and if we think it may hurt individuals, I think we've got to do something to try to stop it. So we've kind of put it on pause with the moratorium. We're doing a lot of research on that. We're trying to figure out what we want to do going forward. On some of this density zoning, I know I've been you know, I always like to make sure of how much green space, common space we have. I think kids are going to play. Kids don't need to play in streets. I mean, I think they need to be provided a safe place to have recreational activities, and I think that's very important. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff, it doesn't happen fast. We currently have a consultant trying to help us out, going through and trying to help us revamp these zoning ordinances. As it was mentioned earlier, we're in the process of updating our land use maps. Is that good on the?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So is this closing?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So, and I guess in closing, one of the things that I ran on as my first time was, you know, I may not have all the answers all the time, but at bare minimum, I'll communicate with you. And I may not give you the answers that you want, but I'll give you an answer. I'll tell you where I stand. And I feel that I've done that. This is the end of my second term. This is my 8th year in this position. So I'll be running for my 3rd term. I've tried to always represent Effingham County to the best of my abilities. One thing I've really enjoyed is serving on the board of managers for ACCG, and that is the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. It's a state organization. The cities have their own organization. But I serve on there as a member for the 12th Congressional District, and I've met a lot of great folks across the state serving in that capacity. Being the commissioner of District 3, it does become challenging at times to figure out how I'm going to allocate the funds. Before the redistricting, I had half the county as far as land area, and through redistricting, I actually have more than half of the land area. Now, of course, we all serve around 12,500 folks in our districts, but still, it kind of gets to be challenging moving the money around and deciding, what projects need to be done. It's really felt good this week. I've gotten some calls from folks that's currently getting some resurfacing projects completed. So that is the fun times. I remember I had Mr. Jerry Smith was a previous county commissioner, and one of the first things he told me when he saw me was, he said, well, today you'll be the most popular you'll ever be. From here on out, you'll get less popular every day. He said, and also, he said, make sure you got a good ceiling fan, because you will develop a relationship with your ceiling fan. And sometimes when I'm awake at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, thinking about a zoning issue or a hot topic coming up, I always think about that conversation I had with Mr. Jerry. I've definitely developed a good relationship with my ceiling fan. But I care about Effingham. I know every decision, as many decisions as we make, you're never going to make everybody happy. And I think if you ever do, then that's a problem. But I can tell you, I do my homework, and I feel that I can back up every decision that I make. I can tell you why I voted the way I did, and I can give you some facts of why I did that. So I'm always happy to talk about any questions or concerns that you may have on an upcoming vote or a previous vote. And I guess with that, I'll close. I just would say thank you to District 3 for allowing me to serve all of you in this capacity, and I would just ask for your vote one more time, and I'd love the chance to serve you for 4 more years. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much, Mr. DeLoach. All right, we're going to keep going. Your District 5 candidates, Reverend Delmons White and Bill Kieffer. All right, the way we started it with the first forum that involved 2 candidates, we let the incumbent go first with the introduction. So Mr. Kieffer, we'll let you start first with the intro.
Okay. Appreciate it, Mark. Appreciate everybody coming out. My first, I don't want to say much about myself. I've been doing this for 12 years, and it's just been an honor. This is, like I said, don't want to talk about myself. This is more about the county. But I do want to touch on some of the challenges our county has faced. Obviously, when I came on the board, we were in the throes of the Great Recession. It was difficult. We've managed to make it through Hurricanes Matthew and Irma. They were challenges for the county. COVID-19 was a challenge. So, from a local standpoint, with the obligations, we had to continue. Now, the other folks that have been talking kind of hard following, which I'm glad, because I really want to focus on my baby, which is property tax. When I came on the board, I believe we were at a county high millage rate. For the first 4 years, I wanted to reduce it. We were in the throes of the Great Recession. The tax digest was just plummeting. But we managed to keep the millage rate the same for 4 years, my first 4 years. And from then on, we've been on a constant decline. And that's something that's been particularly that I'm proud of. But one thing in our plan going forward, we have a 5-year plan. And I don't think it's been mentioned, but our plan is to reduce the county millage rate over the 5 years by 30%. That's huge. That's 30%. And we can get into more as the discussion goes on how that, will come about. But we don't have to wait 5 years. It's going to go down 7 to 10% over the next 5 years. Just this past year alone, from last year to the millage rate we just approved, we went down 5.5%. But again, make no mistake, Effingham County, it's going to have its challenges. But I've been there for the 5th, and I'll always be there for the 5th. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for having me this afternoon. To the chamber, we want to say we greatly appreciate the opportunity to come out tonight. I am not a newcomer to the arena of campaigning for office. I'm Delmons White. I live in Rincon. I'm the 4th child of the late Linnell White and Lillian White of what we call the Stillwell Cayo Road area. Went to school here in Effingham County, and I was always involved in leadership. In fact, ever since before coming out of school, I was involved in leadership. I was elected president of my senior class, and served in that capacity until we graduated and all. And later on, I went on to marry my high school sweetheart, Herline Blake from Rincon, Georgia, of the Baker Hill community, and that union of the last almost 49 years now, well, 49 years, going on the 50th year. And to that union, we were blessed with 2 wonderful kids, a boy and a girl, Dr. Torian White, who is principal of the school here, and our daughter Tiffany, who resides in Atlanta. And we are presently living on Old Augusta Road, the Baker Hill community, where I've been involved obviously since I went down there, from the time of struggling to get that the dirt road, the muddy, sandy road of Baker Hill paved to what is now the truck route and the racetrack of Baker Hill. We're still living there, and we're still involved in the fight. We're still involved in the struggle. And I want to be on this commission so that I can try to implement or facilitate change in our community, in this area. There's a lot of things I'm concerned about, and I won't try to get involved in all of them right now, but I'm concerned about the well-being and whatever is to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people in our county as a whole. But we know that change is coming, but I feel like we need to be involved in facilitating what they're calling smart growth earlier. They referred to that and all, but we need to know that we have someone in the room with a sense of reasoning, and know that sometimes just because we can, we don't need to just do it because we can, but make sure that we're doing it what's in the best interest of all concerned. So I'm glad to be here tonight, and I look forward, if I'm elected, to serve the community as a whole. And I'm not, like I said before, I'm not a stranger to the arena of public service. I had a stint on the Board of Education, and I served a 90-year term from being appointed to serve on the Board of Ed. And after that time, I had a few chances where a few times I took the opportunity to try to be elected and didn't make it successfully, but I did not let that stop me because I'm a servant of the people. And I kept trying and have been trying to be reelected. I first ran up against Mr. Kieffer in 2010. We were in the race for county commission. I lost it then, but I'm back now. And so we're going to see what we can do this time around.
All right. Well, Reverend White, you mentioned smart growth, so we'll start there. That's where we did with the other candidates. I'm sure you're familiar with the chamber definition of smart growth. And, is that what your definition is, or is it a little different than what the chamber has?
Well, from what I've heard referred to all early on during this forum, the smart growth idea, I have some of the same thoughts about that. But you can say smart growth and state what your views are and your thoughts are, what smart growth is or should be, but yet until you actually get there in the trenches, you get there at the table, until you get in a position where you take time to look at all the pros and cons of the growth, then you're not actually facilitating smart growth. So it takes some becoming more engaged in the growth. You know, I heard oftentimes people refer to it's coming, it's inevitable, you know, and yes, it may be, but just because it is coming does not mean that we ought to wait until it's there to put things in place to help make it more, you know, conducive to the individuals that are having to deal with it. You know, that we can all survive and have some sense of awareness at the time of what was, you know, what was approaching and how we can better be able to deal with it. So yes, smart growth is something we need to be involved in, but we have to understand our different ideas of what smart growth is, and then bring those differences to the table, and then put them all together to make sure we do what is to make things better for everybody concerned.
Sir. All right, Mr. Kieffer.
Yeah, don't ask me to quote the chamber's position, but I have read it and certainly understand it, and I would agree with that. You know, with smart growth, the problem with growth, growth is good. Growth is, you know, it leads to a thriving community, but watching growth is hard. Watching it grow is what's difficult, particularly because there's two facets to growth. You know, we're looking at it from the county and as a community, but there's also the big picture. There's a larger economy out there. So certain facets of that growth are happening quicker than others. If that makes sense, we have obviously residential growth. We've seen commercial growth. We've seen industrial growth. And there are levels to what you know is the perfect recipe for a community. And that's absolutely what we're after and what our plan is. It doesn't mean that, you know, right now it is warehouses. That's what's growing. It doesn't mean that this other's not going to catch up and it's all going to blend and be cohesive. I think it's just having to watch that growth that is absolutely good for our community. It's good for our tax digest. It's good for taxpayers, and we'll see it over the next 5 years. But I think that's the hard part, is just watching growth.
Okay. All right, Mr. Kieffer, this next question is we're going to start with you. I think back about 6 or 8 weeks ago, you and I talked about the situation with the water flat with the city of Savannah. And you mentioned that Effingham County's problems or challenges, I should say, might be a better term, can't necessarily be handled within Effingham County. It's going to take some cooperation, you know, with the state and with maybe, and obviously Chatham County and Savannah for like traffic and things. I live in y'all's district, by the way, and if whoever wins this race and you tell me to get a blazing pitchfork and go with you to Atlanta or wherever you want me to go, I'm with you. But would you talk about the communication? If it's not what it needs to be, how can we make it better? In regards to traffic or the water or environment or whatever.
It's for me, right?
Yes, sir.
Sorry. I'll start with the traffic, because that is one, you know, in the 5th district, traffic, as far as, we're in a good position with traffic generally. We really are. It's when you hit Chatham County and it backs in. The problem is just not in Effingham. And I appreciate Representative Hitchens and the state, because they have been phenomenal. The solutions aren't easy. But we are, as far as particularly safety is something I take, because I have young drivers at home. The roundabouts, I love them. When I first took office, for example, Fort Howard Road and Old Augusta, when it was a T intersection, the fatalities, and it just broke my heart. Roundabouts, I love them. They keep people moving, and I'll take a fender bender over a fatality any day. But yeah, that's we have issued, and I believe the study is underway on Old Augusta, what we can do to improve Old Augusta with traffic. The right-of-ways there, what do we need to do to for any intersections, as far as, you know, turning lanes, additional lanes for safety. with that. As far as water, that's a difficult one, because there's so much that with EPD that comes involved. I believe one of the, Commissioner Burdette was speaking earlier about us always looking for options. But yeah, that's a state, but we're always searching and working and meeting with state level on that.
Okay. Reverend White?
Oh, well, if you will, just restate that question so I can make sure I get the essence of it, because
We were talking about challenges like traffic and water can't be necessarily resolved within Effingham County. It's going to take some cooperation with the state and Chatham County possibly.
okay, I thought that's what your main emphasis was, that the challenges there, trying to get something worked out. Well, from where I stand and from what I've been able to find out about that, because I've been doing some checking on that situation, the problem that we have now with the water, let me address the water situation first. The water situation that we presently are dealing with now, it's going to take some dialogue. It's going to take some coming to the table. It's going to take some reasoning and all by all, but from people, yes, outside of Effingham County. It's going to take some interacting with the people in Chatham, namely the people with the Savannah water system, City of Savannah water system and all that, so that we can get beyond this problem that have occurred now because of our growth here in Effingham County, and mainly and primarily, which is probably going to come up later on in our conversation, but the latest of the development along Old Augusta Road with the warehousing and all that, that is right there causing a great concern for the water system, the water supply system for right there on Abercorn Lake. So it's going to take some conversation between Effingham County and the city of Savannah and others as well, because we have to do something to take care of that problem that has been allowed to become one of our thorns in the flesh, so to speak. And then far as traffic is concerned, we have a problem now with traffic that's a greater volume than what we previously had because of a lot of the growth that's going on Old Augusta Road itself on a truck route. We put a lot of traffic in that area in a small amount of time because the people trying to avoid the main flow of 21, and they're coming to Old Augusta. I see it every day because I live on that road. And so we're going to have to be in the room with the people outside of Effingham County and sit down and try to work out a solution that's going to be best for all concerned. But we cannot solve this problem ourselves. The commission can't just solve it. It's going to take some intervention from people outside of the county, be it state or Savannah, City of Savannah, Chatham County, what have you, for us to get to the bottom of that problem.
Would you like to follow up, Mr. Kieffer?
Real quick, and I do agree, and those meetings are taking place regularly. As Commissioner, I'm sorry, Representative Hitchens stated, the deputy commissioners from Effingham, so he certainly, has a keen interest. But I want to go back to the City of Savannah water. Our board has made no decision to jeopardize the water source out of the Ebenezer Creek, Abercorn. We have a source water ordinance that was written with the assistance of City of Savannah staff that this project more than 7 times exceeds the distance requirement. So we certainly didn't have grounds to not let that project move forward based on that particular item.
All right, sir. Reverend White, this question is for you, and I asked this to the District 2 candidates. It's really, I've had more phone calls and people visit me unannounced at my office lately, as I'm sure y'all have been getting a lot of calls too about the concerns over the warehouses and, the subdivisions popping up everywhere. They feel like their way of life is being really severely impacted. Do you think the county commission is taking the right approach to combat these things? And if not, what would you do differently? What would you like to see done?
Okay. Well, to answer the first part, do I think they're taking the right approach? By commission now having a moratorium in place, and I was at one of the last meetings that they had where they even extended that moratorium. That is a step in the right direction, yes. But what I do believe we need to do is that the moratorium is mostly what affects the subdivision, slowing them down. But we need to do more to work at directing this all industrial type development in an area away from the areas that now have been inundated with warehousing approval and warehousing sites. If you would allow me to, I'll draw your attention again to what's so close to home for me is Old Augusta Road. The Old Augusta Road area truly have been bombarded with warehouses and light industrial type zoning, which means more than just a warehouse building. A lot of people don't understand when they get that light industrial approval or rezone for that. A lot of things will fit in that category for light industrial. They could bring in above ground fuel storage facilities. They could bring in below ground fuel storage facilities. They could bring in those tractor trailer storage area where they can stack up container, roll on, roll off container systems and all that in that area if they so desire, because that will fit within the guidelines of light industrial from what I've been able to find out through research. So we just need to make sure that we do a better job of directing that light industrial approval or rezoning to areas where it will not take away all the integrity of the community, or the residential community. Because right now, though it's not directly on the county at this time, county commission at this time, but right now in my community, we have an ongoing battle to try to prevent the warehousing approval or rezoning for warehouses or light industrial, if you will, to come right in the residential community, right in the middle of a neighborhood of residents, where all residents all around it. And that's they're proposing to put in light industrial, rezone for light industrial, and of course get annexed into the city of Lincoln. That's why now the county's not involved with that, but that's what's involved with being going on in the 5th district now on Old Augusta Road. So overall, we do need to try to figure a way to restructure this growth that involves light industrial and then keep a control on the amount of subdivision are being built in, put up and everywhere we can turn around. We find so many areas now throughout the county that areas that used to grow cotton or peanuts is now growing houses, subdivision. We're losing a whole lot of our agricultural land to those things. And those poor farmers that used to rent those lands, and now the people who own the land could make more money by selling it to developers, so they're selling it. So we're losing out on that. And these subdivisions are coming everywhere they can get the chance. And there's all kind of problems going to be created because of that. So yes, we do need to sit down to the table and try to rethink it. And I know the commissioners are working at it. I've been in a lot of their meetings. I make it my business to go to a lot of their meetings. But I just think that we need to really slow it down just a notch more and take more time to really, look at all these things and see what the long-term effects will be for the county as a whole before we make a decision on it. That's it.
Mr. Kieffer?
Yeah. First, I just want to point out that you have to have explicit zoning for the storage of containers or stacking of. We would be seeing a lot more of those if it was truly in industrial. So we're very, very, very cautious about any projects that would attempt that. Our county does have a very good plan for growth. We have areas that have been, for lack of a better term, designated as industrial growth areas. The lower part of Old Augusta is a portion of that. There's Research Forest Tract, there's I-16, there's a couple of other, there's obviously on the north side of Rankin, which is in city of Rankin, that is obviously out of the county's jurisdiction. But we have to plan transportation wise, so we have to work closely with the cities, in their planning. But we absolutely do have that plan. And again, it's simply the warehouses, they're an ingredient for an overall for the health of our county, and they're just, unfortunately, that's what we're seeing now. That growth is happening now. But it'll move into other facets. It'll be the commercial, it'll be the things we all want. But rest assured, they're not getting the tax abatements. They are on the tax rolls. That is how we're gonna roll back our millage rate 30% over 5 years. Not only that, but allocate to this green space. We have, and I can't say much because it's a property acquisition issue, but we are looking now at a very positive thing for our county that we're trying to finalize. Another thing, the landing at Abercorn Landing, we're working with U.S. Fish and Wildlife on a floating dock there, so people can enjoy. That's it's probably the biggest complaint I get on that particular landing is not having a dock to be able to get in and out of boats. But the plan is there, and as taxpayers, we will not only reap the benefits tax-wise, but we're going to be a prospering county for years to come.
Would you like to address that, brother?
Yes, I would like to just address that point about what I was making about the light industrial or the industrial development type thing for like would be a lot of times people think of it being warehouse. Unless it's put in under limited use industrial, then there is still possibilities. I have a document before me here that talks about that limited industrial use district and things of that nature. And under that, it had listed under the permitted use category where they could have bulk fuel above ground storage, bulk fuel below ground storage, and things of that nature under that category. So that's why I'm referring to that. Unless we are careful when we sit down to permit these things to happen and make sure that they're put in specific instruction, put in there where they will be limited, but just improving light industrial, you cannot just say that they will not have some of those type of things coming in. That was my point. And that's why I was stressing so much the point of sitting down and being sure we have a sense of reasoning and understand what we are permitting them to do at this point while we're doing the approval of the rezoning. Before they bring forth their plan of what they're going to build and all that, we have to have that conversation is what I was referring to.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I do want to point out that several of the rezonings and variances I have been critical of, and I'm a couple that I haven't supported. Some of them our board as a whole did support, and I ultimately, going forward, have no choice, but to work and embrace. And I think we've done that. So I just wanted to make that point.
Okay. I cover a lot of government meetings, county commission as often as I can. I see a lot of city council meetings. And as I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself a lot of times how I would vote on an issue. And more, the agenda is becoming conflicts between landowners. They've got disagreements. And Commissioner DeLoach touched on it, how tough that is. If I live 10 miles from a warehouse complex, probably not that big of a deal to me. But if I owned 50 acres of land that somebody wants to pay me $300,000 an acre for, hey, I might be a big supporter of warehouses all of a sudden. So, when it comes to that, personal property rights versus making that decision, could you tell me about that process, how you make that vote, and in your case, how you would make that vote? Mr. Kieffer first.
Very, very carefully. It's not easy. I can't express how tough those decisions are. Because you're talking about individuals' families, an individual's rights, a neighbor's rights. They have a right to peaceful enjoyment of their property, even though it may not be a subject of rezoning. It's difficult. It is very difficult. We have some, where a family it's been in their family 250 years. And it's you really have to have a clear mind and cool heads at the table. A lot of emotion. And that's probably once you start peeling back the emotion and really getting, everybody kind of starts coming to the table and leaves the emotion. I'd like to say most can be worked out where not everybody wins, not everybody loses, but at the end of the day, it's good for them and it's good for the county. At the end of the day, the goal is the county as a whole.
Reverend White?
Yeah, I would have to somewhat go along with what Mr. Kieffer has said, but my biggest thing would be trying to be that voice of reasoning at the table to try to lead the group toward what the greater good will be at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, for the greater good. And I think that, and this is a question, this is really a good question you brought up, because that hits close to home as well, right there with us and on Old Up the Road. But if I was on the commission and we have that type of thing come up, that we're trying to vote on whether we are going to pass the rezoning or not, I would make sure that I tried to delay the vote long enough that I could get out and get some feel for what the citizens are thinking about that, how they feel about this particular thing going forward, and not just have to be reactive. Try to be a little more proactive and go out and try to convey that thought process to the rest of the board, that let's table this so we can find out more about, from the people that it will affect, how they really feel about this matter, and then look at the pros and cons before we really would make a decision. If at all possible, try to get the group to agree to that, and then we can come back at it a little later on and see if that is really something that we really need to do. Because again, as I said before, just because something can be done does not necessarily always mean that it should be done. So all I'm saying is that perhaps by delaying a vote, we can all come to see that it's not in the best interest of us to go ahead and do this thing, just because it's asked of us to do it.
Okay. Mr. Kieffer, would you like to address that any further? Okay. All right. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time, so we'll move on to concluding remarks. And when you do those, please, if there's a question that you wish I had asked, go ahead and take a shot at it. If there's any response from your challenger that you didn't agree with, here's your last chance to rebut that and just make your best case why you're the candidate. We'll start with you, Mr. Reverend White.
All right, well, thank you. I wanted to say that as part of my closing remarks is that I certainly am grateful to have had this privilege to come tonight and be a part of this forum. Because I've been here before, I know that the forum in and of itself does not give the candidate any assurance that they will be the one who will get to seat the position. Because just like all the campaign signs that you want to put out does not assure you of winning the election on the election day, because signs don't vote, people do. And the problems that I am very well acquainted with is that you have to get the people to go to the polls to make a decision to vote for you when the time comes. So I do know that tonight is important, and I hope that I have been successful in conveying my thoughts and my ability to be a person of reason, that I can and will do just what I said I'm here to do, and that be the voice of the people, where I will be, one, willing to convey to the rest of my constituents that the individuals in the community, their concerns are my concerns, and that I'm there to represent those who have elected me if I am elected. And so with that being said, if I'm elected, I will be visible in the district and will represent all of the citizens of my district just as strongly as I now represent every member of my congregation that I've had for the last 40-some years. I will be there looking out for them as if they were my own family. I promise to be accessible, and I must say that I had this in my closing words long before I heard Commissioner DeLoach said what they have already been working on, getting a PR person in place, because those are some of my strong points. I really feel like we do need more public relations, need the community to be informed about what we're doing. And so that is something I promise to do. If I am elected, be accessible to everyone and to respond to the questions that any citizen may have. And they may present to me, that I would go forth and try to get an answer for them. I would do that by having an email address that is designated to be that for the purpose of citizens reaching out to me and letting me know what they're concerned. That would be the medium of where they can do that. Additionally, I want to be your voice in the room. You that are listening to me now, here in the room, and those that are viewing us, this presentation now or later. So I will promote more citizen input and more citizen involvement in our county government, and do as much as, whenever it's possible, make sure that you are aware of what important decision we are making there on the commission. So I just say to you tonight that all that hear me now, just know that I am a servant. I am concerned about serving. I'm willing to serve. I have served. I'm a veteran of the armed forces. I served both in the Army and in the Air Force by way of the Air National Guard. I served that, and I've been serving as pastor of the church for over 40 years, and I've been involved in my community serving ever since I returned back here from the military. So I thank you, and I pledge to give you my best if I am elected on November the 8th or sooner by way of early voting. Thank you.
Mr. Kieffer.
Later this month I'll be 46 years old, and I've lived, other than my time in college, I've been in Effingham County. Growing up, late 70s, early 80s, my dad traveled for work from Arizona, Puerto Rico, Texas, and then something happened in the early 80s when Fort Howard came along, which is now Georgia Pacific, the paper mill. Things started to happen in the county. There was some life kind of breathed into the county, and eventually he was able to basically build his career and stay home and finish, raising his family. So I just want people to understand, I've seen the side of no growth. I've experienced it, and there are some great days ahead for Effingham County, and I'm excited. I'm always accessible. My cell number's on the website. I've helped people from other districts and kind of walk, just not even the other commissioner may not even know. I've just, helped them. But I enjoy serving this county, and I'm going to continue with my, fiscal conservative policies and continue to serve. Thank you.
All right, well, gentlemen, we really appreciate you guys participating. We appreciate all the other candidates as well. Andy, I turn it back to you.